Hello, and welcome to training on the 2020-2021 Important Prerequisite Math Standards for Secondary. Today, we will introduce the new document, Louisiana Important Prerequisite Math Standards. We will also experience two different planning scenarios and think about what decisions we will make to engage students in just-in-time support so that we can be sure they are experiencing and learning grade level mathematics. To fully participate in today's session, you will need access to the documents linked on this slide. Today's training example uses grade 7 Engage New York Eureka math materials, but the line of thinking and planning is applicable to any high-quality curriculum at any grade level of math. We chose Eureka for this presentation because it is the most widely used curriculum in our state. At this time, pause the video to collect your materials. To begin our thinking on important prerequisite math standards, let's take a moment to reflect. What approaches are you taking this year to make sure your students are ready for grade level mathematics? What student learning challenges are you facing? For challenges, try to focus on the learning and not the major societal challenges of a pandemic or a hurricane. On a piece of paper, list your go-to strategies that you've been using to address some of these challenges. Take a 30-second pause to reflect. If you're watching this recording as a team, feel free to think silently, then share with your group. Keep this note handy for the end of the training. The Louisiana Important Prerequisite Math Standards document provides guidance regarding strategic decision-making to support on-time remediation. This document identifies critical standards in which students may have unfinished learning. Suggestions are provided indicating where time can be made to address these critical prerequisite standards. Lessons aligned to the most common Tier 1 curricula are listed. All of this information has been provided with the goal of supporting teachers in strategic, proactive planning for the 2020-2021 school year. You will find this new document posted on the K-12 Math Planning page. A commitment to equitable mathematics instruction requires intentionality in identifying, celebrating, and building on knowledge that students have gained. It also requires that educators are strategic as they plan to address current and ongoing learning gaps. Starting the year with weeks of review of prior grade standards will result in long-term learning loss of access to grade level work that will perpetuate inequalities for historically struggling students. This approach is shown in the top graphic. Students who were impacted by interruptions to teaching and learning and subsequent learning losses are still able to access most grade level standards this year without prior review, and that missed content can be usually integrated in a minimally invasive way. This means that as we move through the year, teachers build in scaffolds and supports as they are needed for success in grade level content as shown in graphic 2. Sometimes those interventions will be at the beginning of a topic or lesson. Sometimes they will be carefully woven into a topic or lesson, building on supports. And sometimes they will be a result of student struggle to ensure access for every child. No matter their reason, supports are integrated into lessons. Those supports must be of the same quality as the adopted curriculum. Thank you to our colleagues in Hawaii for this graphic representation of just-in-time support. A preview of grade 7 is shown of the Louisiana Important Prerequisite Math Standards document for 2020-2021. The first column identifies prior grade level standards that are necessary for current year learning. Prior grade standards shaded red require action before the students will be ready for the content in column 2. The standards shaded red are referred to as bridge up standards. Standards shaded orange may require teachers to support and scaffold during instruction on the grade level standard. The standards shaded orange are referred to as heavy traffic standards, and there was lots of attention paid to them in the previous grade level. Therefore, students should have an entry point into the current grade level, but may require support. The fourth column holds suggestions for instructional time. Time should be preserved for content shaded green and is suggested to be reduced for content shaded blue. The final column provides lesson alignment to the most widely implemented Tier 1 curriculum in our state. Please take particular note of the title. This document is intended to drive decision-making this year in response to events affecting learning last year and this fall. Just because a teacher or school chooses to omit or de-emphasize something this year does not mean that the same decision will be relevant or in the best interest of students next year. We will now visit two 7th grade teams. Today is November 13th. Pelican Middle School is located in the southwest part of our state. At this point, they are in the 7th week of attendance. Students are attending school on an A-B rotation and have completed lessons through Module 1. Alligator Junior High is located in North Louisiana. Right now, they are in the 11th week of school. Students returned to face-to-face instruction last week. They have completed lessons through Module 2, Topic A. Both teams already have a long-term plan through Module 2 and are forward planning so that they can save time and ensure students engage in and are proficient in important 7th grade content and are ready for grade 8 by the end of May. To start to make strategic decisions, each team will need their Module 3 teacher materials, their Louisiana Guides Implementing Eureka Math, the Eureka Remediation tool, and the new Louisiana Important Prerequisite Math Standards document. Teachers will also need access to their students' diagnostic performance data. First, the team will look at the Louisiana Guides Implementing Eureka for grade 7, Module 3, Topic A and B. This information is found on page 12. Topic A is rooted in standards 7EE A1 and 2. Topic B continues to 7EE B2 and 4 and adds in the context of geometry with 7G B5. Topic C further digs into geometry as a context for the work of Module 3, focusing on standards 7G B4 and 7G B6. It is also important to note the embedded prior grade level standards in these lessons. We can capitalize on this embedded scaffold if needed. Take notice that all of the lessons in Module 3 are considered 1 grade level lessons. Next, we will take a look at the Louisiana Important Prerequisite Math Standards document, focusing on the standards that we listed on the previous page. 7EE A1, 2, 3, and 4, and 7GB 4, 5, and 6. Standard coding is helpful, but it's always important to refer back to the full text each time we are making decisions. So for 7EE A1, we are looking at applying the properties of operations and strategies to add, subtract, factor, and expand linear expressions with rational coefficients to include multiple grouping symbols. For 7EE A2, we are understanding that writing an expression in different forms in a problem context can shed light on the problem and how the quantities in it are related. 7EE B3 is multi-step real-life and mathematical problems with positive and negative rational numbers in any form. Applying operations, the properties of operations to calculate it with real numbers, converting between forms as appropriate, and assessing the reasonableness of answers using mental computation and estimation strategies. For EEB4, we're using variables to represent quantities in a real world or mathematical problem and construct simple equations and inequalities to solve problems by reasoning about the quantities. Notice that there are standards shaded orange previous to 7EE A1 and 2, and those are considered heavy traffic standards, which means that students should have an entry point into EE A1 and 2, but they may require some strategic support. And then 7EEB4 is another word problem standard, but that but 7 EEB4 may require some bridging up from the 6th grade standard. It is recommended that we emphasize equations relative to inequalities here. We're going to jump to the 7th grade geometry standard so we can look at GB 4, 5, and 6. So if we look here, GB4 is to know the area formula, and the formulas for area and circumference of a circle and to use them to solve problems. GB5 is to use facts about supplementary, complementary, vertical, and adjacent angles in multi-step problems, to write and solve simple equations for an unknown angle in a figure. And GB6 is to solve real-world and mathematical problems involving area, volume, and surface area of 2- and 3-dimensional objects. Now for GB4, the recommendation is that we combine lessons knowing and using the formulas for area and circumference of a circle. Because we are looking at Module 3, we need to notice that this particular standard is addressed in lessons 16, 17, 18, and 20 of Module 3. So we'll look at possibly reducing some time there. And we will also look at lessons 10 and 11 for GB5, and we will look at lessons 19 through 26 for 7GB6. Now this blue doesn't mean that this content is not important. It just means that this year we may choose as teachers to reduce time so that we can spend time on other major content. Now we will look at the teacher materials. This information comes from page 1 of the teacher edition for Module 3. Here we're taking a quick look at the lesson objectives for this set of topics and referencing the topic overview for more detailed information about the content of the lessons. Notice that the standard alignment here may be a little different than the alignment listed in the Louisiana documents. This is mostly due to the slight differences between the Louisiana Student Standards for Mathematics and the College and Career Ready Standards. Here, we are taking a quick look at lesson objectives for this set of topics, taking particular note of how ideas develop across the module and which lessons have the same learning outcome. In Lesson 1 of Topic A, students write equivalent expressions by finding sums and differences, extending the commutative and associative property to collect like terms and rewrite algebraic expressions in standard form. In Lesson 2, students rewrite products in standard form by applying the commutative property to rearrange like items next to each other and rewrite division as multiplying by the multiplicative inverse. Lesson 3 and 4 have the same lesson objective and have students using a rectangular array in the distributive property as they first multiply one term by a sum of 2 or more terms to expand a product to a sum, and then reverse the product to rewrite the sum as a product of the GCF and the remaining factor. In Lesson 5, students recognize that detecting inverses and identity properties for 0 for addition and 1 for multiplication allows for ease in rewriting equivalent expressions. The topic culminates with Lesson 6, with students applying repeated use of the distributive property as they collect like terms containing fractional coefficients to rewrite rational number expressions. So in Topic A, there is a big focus on operations in the distributive property and applying the commutative and associative properties. Topic B begins in Lesson 7 with students evaluating equations and problems modeled with equations for given rational number values to determine whether the value makes a true or false number sentence. Lessons 8 and 9, students are given problems of perimeter, total cost, age comparisons, and distance and rate and time to solve problems. Students will discover that modeling these types of problems with an equation becomes an efficient approach to solving the problem, especially when the problem contains rational numbers. In Lessons 10 and 11, all problems provide a real-world or mathematical context so that students can connect the abstract variable or letter to the number that it actually represents in the problem. The number already exists, students just need to find it. Lesson 12 introduces students to situations that are modeled in the form of p times x plus q greater than r and p times x plus q less than r. Initially, students start by translating from verbal to algebraic, choosing the inequality symbol that best represents the given situation. Students then find the number that makes the inequality true. To better understand how to solve an inequality containing a variable, students look at statements comparing numbers in Lesson 13. They then discover when and why multiplying by a negative number reverses the inequality symbol when this symbol is preserved. In Lesson 14, students extend the idea of isolating the variable in an equation to solve problems modeled with inequalities using the properties of inequality. The topic concludes with students modeling inequality solutions on a number line and interpreting what each solution means within the context of a problem. Topic C begins when students discovering the greatest ratio of all, pi. In Lesson 16, students use a compass to construct a circle and extend their understanding of angles and arcs from earlier grades to develop the definition of a circle through exploration. A whole group activity follows in which a wheel, chalk, and string are used to physically model the ratio of the circle's circumference to its diameter. Through this activity, students conceptualize pi as a number whose value is a little more than 3. The lesson continues to examine this relationship between a circle's circumference and diameter as students understand pi to be a constant. This constant, which can be approximated as 22/7 or 3.14, is used to efficiently solve problems related to circumference of circles and semicircles. Students continue examining circles in Lesson 17 as they discover what happens if they cut the circle of radius length r into equivalent size sectors and rearrange them to resemble a rectangle. Applying what they know about the area of a rectangle, students examine the dimensions to derive the formula for the area of a circle. They use this formula, area equals pi r squared, to solve problems. In Lesson 18, students consider how to adapt the area and circumference formulas to examine interesting problems involving quarter circle and semicircular regions. In Lessons 19 and 20, students determine composite areas by composing and decomposing into familiar shapes. They use the coordinate plane as a tool to determine the length and area of figures with vertices at grid points. The topic concludes as students apply their knowledge of plane figures to find the surface area and volume of three-dimensional figures. Lessons 21 and 22, students use polyhedron nets to understand surface area. And in Lessons 23 and 24, students recognize the volume of a right prism to be the area of the base times the height and compute volumes of right prisms involving fractional values for the length. For Module 3, the prerequisite standards are listed on the diagnostic mapping document. EEA3 and A4 are heavy traffic standards as identified by the important prerequisite document and the orange oval on the slide. 7EEB7 and 7EEB8 are considered bridge up standards as identified on the new document and noted by the red oval. The diagnostic items addressing these grade 6 standards are listed under the standard code. Students' performance on these items on the diagnostic assessment from LEAP 360 can give us an initial glimpse into their readiness for 7th grade content. Next, we will reference the Eureka remediation tools. It is important to notice the bridge up standards of 7EE7, 6EEB7, and 6EEB8, and 6GA4. All come with ready-made screeners inside these tools. Teachers can choose to administer these short 3-question tools to determine the scope of the unfinished learning in their class. Several of the heavy traffic standards are also listed. Here, focus on the most important parts, the most important unfinished learning, rather than trying to fix every gap all at once. Also, consider other data sources. If you have evidence of your students' readiness on one of these standards from the diagnostic, focus on a different piece of unfinished learning. This is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Okay, now we're going to take a pause. Right now we know a lot of information. The content in topics A and B is major content and not where we can afford to skip lessons or rush. Students will need some bridges built from grade 6 understanding, but through reflecting on diagnostic data and using parts of the remediation tools, we will be able to determine whether small groups or the whole class need support. Topic C, although usually a place where we would also not want to cut content, is a topic where we are transferring our knowledge of equations and expressions to the context of geometry. This year, depending on pacing, we can choose to combine or remove lessons so that we have time to reinforce other content. So what next? We're going to reflect on pacing. How many lessons do we have left for the year? How much of the year still remains? We're going to reflect on student performance. We have multiple opportunities to gather and reflect on student performance data at this point in planning. Exit tickets, Leap 360 data, Eureka remediation tools, and classroom observations all give us information about students. Remember that our sample schools are only a couple of weeks out from this content. Planning now highlights what information teachers should pay attention to as students turn and work daily. We also have the opportunity to gather more information on all or just a few students. We also should consider what does guidance for this year say about content and strategies. And at our school level, what structures are available during the day to use as extra math time? Do we have an extended math block? Do we have work time, win time, or tutoring time during the day? Is there downtime at the end of the day due to COVID compliant dismissal? Action and intervention doesn't have to happen during math block or RTI time. Every moment with students is an opportunity for learning. Are there any other data sources we should use to reflect on? Curriculum embedded assessments, exit tickets, Leap 360 diagnostic and interim assessment data, along with classroom observations, all give us information as teachers to strategically plan for the needs of students. Now let's practice. Remember Pelican Middle School? Pelican Middle School is located in Southwest Louisiana. Today is November 13th, which is about the 7th week of school this year. Students have been attending on an AB rotation. The 7th grade team have completed Module 1 today. The school year in this district is scheduled to end the last week of May. Normally, the module pacing would be in the 12th week of school, beginning Module 3. Student diagnostic data is listed below. This team must plan to address unfinished learning in their student population and engage with essential content to ensure success for their students in future mathematics. If you're watching this video with the teacher team, pause for about 10 minutes to discuss what decisions you might make if you were on the grade 7 team at Pelican Middle School. It is important to notice that this year we have 5 fewer weeks of school. Students are attending on an AB rotation and the plans for the full student body to return are not yet final. School is still scheduled to end on time in May, even though we had a rough start at the beginning. Teachers already have a solid plan for Module 2. 6EE A3 and A4 are important prerequisites for Topic A of Module 3. Students did not perform particularly well on these items on the diagnostic. 6EE B7 and 6EE B8 are important prerequisites for Topic B, but students had more success on these. They were able to graph simple inequalities and were able to connect the inequality to a number line graph successfully in grade 6. The teachers at Pelican decided that 6EEA3 and 6EEA4 was an urgent need for their students according to the data, and they also noticed the importance of those standards. Because they are just starting Module 2 and plan to spend 4 weeks on this module, they have plenty of time to screen and intervene on the unfinished learning before they get to Module 3 Topic A. The team decides they will administer the 6 questions for the Eureka remediation tool for Module 3 Topic A at the beginning of next week to all students. They chose this approach because they wanted to confirm the diagnostic data and find out if students have filled those learning gaps through being back in the routine at school. The diagnostic data at this point is a little old. After reviewing the performance, they will decide to attack this piece of unfinished learning with either a daily mini lesson class opener for all students or during the end of class with small groups of students. This depends on the scope of the learning gap as still present in their student population. They will use the lessons listed in the Eureka remediation tool from the 6th grade Engage New York materials to perform this intervention. Students did better on the standards listed for the Module 3 remediation tool in the diagnostic for Topic B. Teachers know which students will need this specific support. The data here matches what teachers are noticing about performance during class, on exit tickets, and on assessments. These particular students will get some small group support on these standards at least a week before Topic B is taught. This group of teachers has a clear plan for unfinished learning to ensure students are ready for Topic A and B. Important prerequisite document identifies the content in Topics A and B as necessary to maintain time to teach these standards, and the teachers decide that they will teach all the lessons here. As the teachers looked to Topic C and referenced the standards in the new document on page 41, they realized the need to compact lessons in the interest of saving time this year. After referencing the recommendations on the important prerequisite standards document and noticing that 7th grade geometry standards B4 and B6 will be taught again in Module 6 of 7th grade, they made the following decisions. They will teach lessons 16, 19, and 20 as written. Lessons 17 and 18 will be combined as noted by the red box and in line with the recommendation to reduce time and practice for the standard. Focus will be on the understanding of the area formula and the relationship to coherence. Lesson 21 and 22 will also be combined. Students will not need to draw nets, but understand that the surface area is the sum of the area of the faces of a three-dimensional figure. Lessons 23 and 24 will introduce the volume of a right prism. But at this time, with this group of students, lessons 25 and 26 will not be taught. The teachers spent much time discussing the implications of these decisions and came to the agreement that this year these edits are necessary. Usually, students spend a lot of time thinking about how these ideas are developed and practicing on these skills. The events of this year make it necessary to reduce the amount of time we spend on Topic C just now. Next year, the teachers plan on teaching these lessons as written. At this point, pause the video and compare your action plan for Pelican Middle School to what was just presented. Please note that the sample is not a right answer, just one approach a team could take. Now let's go back and visit Alligator Junior High. Alligator Junior High is located in North Louisiana. Students attended a hybrid model, but returned to school week 10. Today is November 13th, which is about the 11th week of school. 7th grade students were just assessed on Topic A of Module 2. The school year in this district is scheduled to end the last week of May. In a normal year, teachers would be beginning Module 3. If you are watching this video with the teacher team, pause for about 10 minutes to discuss what decisions you might make if you were on the grade 7 team at Alligator Junior High School. It is important to note that this year we have 2 fewer weeks of school. Students were attending on an AB rotation, but the full student body has now returned. School is still scheduled to end on time in May, even though we had a rough start. Teachers already have a plan for Module 2. And just like at Pelican Middle School, Alligator Junior High School students did not do particularly well on the Diagnostic Leap 360 items aligned to 6th grade standard EEA3 and EEA4. But they are important prerequisites for the topic A of Module 3. On the 6th grade standards 6EEB7 and 6EEB8, students performed a little bit better, and those are important prerequisites for topic B. But there was a little bit more success here. The teachers at Alligator Junior High also noticed that there is a point of urgent need for their students for prerequisites to topic A, as noted by their performance on standard 6th grade EEA3 and 6th grade EEA4. Because they are mid-module 2 in their pacing, they have a little bit of time to screen and intervene on this unfinished learning before they get to module 3 topic A. The team decides that they will administer the 6-question screener for module 3 topic A tomorrow to all students. They choose to screen all the students because the diagnostic data is a little old at this point, and they think that some of the students have filled those learning gaps. Because time is tight, they will come to next week's planning meeting with the topic A screener graded and the students who need support identified. After reviewing performance, they will decide to attack this unfinished learning either en masse to the whole group of students, depending on the scope of the still present unfinished learning, or individually and in small groups of students. They will use the lessons listed in the Eureka remediation tool as a source for high-quality problems. These students also did better on the standards listed for the Module 3 Topic B remediation tool. Teachers know which students will need this specific support because the data here also matches very similarly to what was happening at Pelican Middle School, their classroom observation, exit ticket, and assessment data. Students will get some small group support on these standards beginning next Wednesday. So now that this teacher has a plan for unfinished learning, they have to make some strategic curricular decisions. As teachers looked to topic C, they also decided they were going to teach every lesson in topic A and B because those particular standards were listed as important to maintain time by the important prerequisite math standards document. As the teachers looked to topic C and referenced the standards in the new document, they also saw the need to compact. They will teach lessons 18, 19, and 20 as written. Lessons 17 and 18 will be combined, as noted by the red square. Lessons 21 and 22 will also be combined, and they will make particular note to have students understand the definition of surface area as the sum of the area of the faces of a three-dimensional object, but they will be the teachers will put less stress on the requirement of understanding and using nets. Lessons 23 and 24 will also be combined, but they still want to expose students to the volume of a right prism. Lessons 25 and 26 will be combined, but they will be taught at Alligator Junior High. The teachers feel that they are combining a lot of lessons here and understand the need for these decisions, but also feel that they have a little bit of time necessary for that one day of practice for students. Teachers spent a lot of time discussing the implications of these decisions and came to the agreement that this year, these are necessary decisions. Students spend a lot of time usually thinking about how these ideas are developed, but this year we have to narrow some time so that we can focus on content that is going to support them moving forward in mathematics. At this time, pause the video and compare your action plan for Alligator Junior High to what was just presented. Again, remember that this is not the only right answer, just one approach a team could take. process you just experienced connects very strongly to the diverse learner cycle. This year, every student is coming with different knowledge and skills. Classroom makeups are changing as students move to different modes of learning due to health and environmental emergencies. As we move forward into next year, it will be essential to continually engage in this cycle, ensuring readiness for every student, especially the most vulnerable student populations. So what next steps should we take? We should continue to plan with the lens of readiness. There is no program or website that will address the needs of students in the manner that a well-prepared teacher who has established positive teacher-student relationships. This process is also not new. We just now have an urgent need to become proficient as educators on making strategic instructional decisions that are focused on filling unfinished learning gaps. Be willing to flex and adapt your plans in the interest of student learning needs. Root your decisions in student data and the standards. As grade level teams make strategic decisions, it is necessary to make note of what actions are taken in terms of lessons and strategies that are emphasized, de-emphasized, deprioritized, or removed. These decisions are so important and necessary this year, but record of the actions you take will be valuable information for your next grade level teacher, colleague. Share your notes in vertical planning conversations in the future. Now that we have experienced the process from two perspectives, let's reflect on our original list of strategies. How does your original list compare to what we have learned today? What do you commit to trying out in your classroom? Thank you for joining us today. For questions related to the Louisiana Important Prerequisite Math Standards document or any other tool posted on the K-12 Math Planning page, please reach out to stem@la.gov.